name is Rob. Hey, my name is Rob Pickens. Thank you for tuning in. Today I have something very powerful I want to share. A few days ago, the Lord gave me a dream. In the dream I went to hell. I was going down this long tunnel, and it seemed as if the tunnel represent a body part. I don't know how to explain it, but it looks like the different direction that I was going in hell represented a body. And so I went somewhere far down in hell, and I came and I appeared before a dark area, and I could see the fire that was in the hell and the flames from afar off at different places, and it was so dark. I mean, it was so dark you couldn't really see anything other than what the light or the fire of hell that was in hell revealed. And of course I'm looking around, and in front of me, just maybe like a few meters off, there was this big old door, and the door was literally standing in the middle of nowhere. It was standing there. It didn't have no structure. It didn't have any walls attached to it. It was just a big old giant door. And on this door, it was chains that was bound around the entire door. Chains thicker than anything I've ever seen before in my life. There was thick chains. And as I began to walk up closer to the door, I could literally see fire coming out the cracks of the edge of the door, like it was trying to bust out, and the door was just shaking violently, non-stop, just shaking and shaking and shaking. You know, it was just shaking, and I was a bit afraid because I didn't know where the world, like what was going on at a point in time. I didn't know what the door was. I couldn't make out anything that was going on, and on the door there was a carving on the door that seemed to be scraped with a nail. That whoever scraped the letters on the door had a nail in their hand, scraping it. And on the door, it said, "For an appointed time." And as I began to read it, the door began to shake even more violent, and I couldn't get in the door. But something told me, I was like, man, I think this is the lake of fire, because the fire was coming underneath the crack of the door, and the fire on the edge of the door, it was just unbelievable. And so I couldn't get in the door. There was no doorknob or anything like that. And out of nowhere, I heard a voice coming from under the door. And some kind of way, the Spirit of God had his hand came from under the door, and it grabbed my eyes. It grabbed my eyes, and the Lord said, "Come, I want to show you something." And it dragged my eyes underneath the door, and I went inside this room, and it was dark, and the Spirit of God lit the whole place up, and I literally saw what seemed to be a big old bowl, and inside the bowl was like a lake that was made out of fire. And I seen souls screaming and crying and trying to run to the edge. And the edge was so thin, it reminds me of a bowl from the top that had no bottom, so it just went deep down. And the edge was so thin that people were coming, souls kept trying to come to the edge, screaming to stop the burning and stop the pain and torment to get to the edge, and they didn't have enough strength to even pull themselves up. And I began to weep, I began to cry, and from the screams that I heard, and the people crying out for another chance, for hope and for help to stop the burning, and it seemed as if the deeper down they went, the hotter it got, and there was so many souls in this lake of fire that I began to cry and scream in agony and pain. And I said, "God, please help me, get me out of this place. God, I don't want to be here. Help me." And I began to cry and scream, and God, and I literally saw God grab my head and pull me back from under the door and came out, and I began to scream and cry. And the Lord began to tell me, He said, "Son, tell my people this is the pending judgment." He said, even if they don't believe, doesn't mean it don't exist. He said, "Tell my people, I want you to warn them that the lake of fire is real. and is hungry for disobedient souls. Tell my people that this is the pending judgment, and it's real. I pray that this wake you up. This messed me up. I mean, oh my God, hell is not made for us. Hell ain't for me. I'm sorry. Look up. And God began to tell me, he said, son, warn my people. Warn them and tell them that this is the pending judgment. Though it tarries, it will surely come. Don't let it find you disobedient. If there ever was a time for us to cry out to God, now is the time. I pray this blesses you as much as it did for me. This is a wake-up call. God wants obedience so that others may be able to experience the power of God. This was a wake-up call for me. Hell and the lake of fire was not designed for me, and it will not be part of my future, because I'm choosing to obey God. Be blessed.